From the Convention Center in Atlantic City, this is Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Jill Horner at the League of Municipalities Convention. With me is Mayor Eldridge Hawkins, Jr. And we are talking all about what's happening in your community, because there are major tax appeals happening for many different homeowners. But the reason for that is what happened 6 years ago.
Yes.
Talk to us about how assessments were done in your township and what this actually means today.
Right. Well, approximately 6 years ago, like everybody knows, it was the peak of the housing market. And now the real estate market has collapsed, the real estate bubble has popped, and values have plummeted. But what that really meant was that people's homes were valued from a tax perspective when their values were at their highest. And now the values have fallen, and they're being taxed at a rate or at a value that was predicated on the artificially high values of 6 years ago. So, for example, a homeowner now might have a house that's only worth $200,000, but they're paying taxes based on a value of $400,000. And realizing that that's a citywide problem and that we're losing significant revenue each year based on tax appeals to a tune of $375,000, I think it's the only fair thing to try and correct the problem through another revaluation to bring people's assessed values in line with their current market values.
So before we get into that process and what could potentially happen there in getting those tax assessments in line with current housing market values, we're here at the League of Municipalities Convention. A variety of different topics are addressed, but many communities are in this situation where they're receiving tax appeals on a regular basis. Homes are going into foreclosure. Is that something that's actually being addressed right now?
Yes, it's something that we're looking at very closely. Orange is not alone. Many communities throughout the state are experiencing foreclosure, and that does have a direct impact on home values. For example, if you yourself are struggling to pay your mortgage, and you actually have to have a short sale instead of doing a foreclosure where the bank accepts less than the mortgage note for the value of the home, and your house sells for $125,000, but your neighbor's house is up to date as it relates to the mortgage, and they're trying to sell for market value, or what it used to be, at $300,000, they can't get their value because when people come to pull the comparable sales, they're getting hit with the short sale value of your neighbor across the street. And that ultimately also impacts the overall value of your home and your appraised value, which also has an impact on ultimately your ability to win a tax appeal.
Now, you're actually working at this point to look toward a revaluation for Orange, and this is a process, because it's not as if the community can say, or you as mayor can say, let's do this process. There are a variety of different entities that need to be on board.
Yes. Because you're dealing with taxes, you have to deal with the local finance board. This is not something that you just wake up in the morning and say, hey, we're going to have a tax appeal. You have to do your due diligence and make sure and prove that is the appropriate thing to do for your community. So one of the things that we've done is look at our city to see if there's a disparity in how the distribution of taxes is presently laid out. And of course we have proof positive based on the tax appeals that we're losing as a city. So there is no dispute that there is a improper balance as it relates to how taxes are distributed through the community, and that it needs to be corrected. So understanding that, we've had discussions with the local finance board, and then ultimately we have to go through the city council, because as the administrative arm of the city, while I can push this agenda, it has to be authorized by the city council. There's a contract that has to be issued for whoever is the vendor that undertakes this massive operation of appraising and inspecting every home in the entire city. So it is a process. We have to put in an RFP or an RFQ to solicit the appropriate bids or vendors to then finally get the approval from the council. And once that's done, then they go out and do the entire process, and it is a long and arduous process, and it is a tad bit invasive to the extent that people are asked to open up their homes so that they can get an accurate depiction of what's inside to draw the appropriate value.
And we just have a short time left, but in the interim, will these tax appeals, do you think, continue?
Oh, sure. The tax appeals will continue, and that's one reason that we want to try to correct it, not just because of the lost revenue, but it's just not fair to the residents for us to force them to pay $100 to $1,000 in a tax appeal when we can fix it.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Mayor Eldridge Hawkins, Jr. of the City of Orange Township. I'm Jill Horner.